Hello. I haven't been on in a while because I've been busy with so many different projects, but I wanted to jump on because I'm trying to make this a habit of making a video a couple of times a week and posting about all of the many things that I'm interested in and participating in, and hopefully providing a different perspective from what's already out there. So, um, one of my friends went out with me to the property that I'm looking at right now for my home and land purchase. She wanted to see what I was looking at because I was talking about it to my dad. She was there. We all went out to the property and she saw the pond and 12 acres, the pastures, and all the buildings. And when we were done, we all went out to lunch and I dropped my dad off, and my friend and I just started kind of riding around. And she asked me this question. She said, how do you do this? She said, we make the same money. We work at the same job. How are you able to purchase a home with 12 acres and a pond and then all your other properties and then your business? How are you doing that? Because I know you come from humble beginnings. I know your family, and you shouldn't be able to do this. And I told her very, very, very honestly that it's not easy for me at all. Like, I don't consider myself a super intelligent person. I think I probably have like slightly above average intelligence. And, and I have to really think about things and plan and strategize on what the best way forward for me to get from point A to point B in most things in my life. And, I'm very methodical and very logical. And with all of that said, I told her I just had to take chances. When you come from very humble beginnings, you have to think about everything that you do, every move you make, who you're going to date, whether or not you're going to have children, where you go to school, where you work, who you associate with, because the slightest wrong move could take you from 0 to a negative 10 because you don't have that cushion, right? You don't have that cushion to help bounce back if something goes wrong. So for me, I looked at myself financially 20 years ago, excuse me, and I said, there is no amount of working hard and saving that's going to get me to where I want to be. It's just not going to happen. And so I had to pay attention to the people around me who were like me, but had a little bit more or had a lot more. And then I began to pay attention to those who were just extremely, extremely financially successful. And I began to read books. I read, like most people who are trying to build wealth, I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Man, Poor Man series. That was probably my very first book I read about wealth building. And I just sat there like, never thought about it like that because no one ever talked to me about it like that. And then I read Larry Burkett's book, Victory Over Debt. And it's a Christian based book about just very basic financial planning and financial principles to help you save and invest and just make tough decisions about what's important in your life and what's not important. I think I read that book 2 or 3 times. And I read all of the books in Robert Kiyosaki's series for 4 or 5 times. Another book I read was called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it's a parable. It's one long parable about how two different men and how they use the wealth that they had been blessed with from God, and that that meant a lot to me. You know, there weren't any practical, functional principles in that book. It was more related to a philosophy of how you approach your money. So once I read those books, I began to look at other things, and I began to start to decipher what I could apply to my life and what I couldn't apply. Because a lot of these wealth building strategies don't apply to people who don't inherit anything. I didn't have any inherited wealth. I didn't have a trust fund, and I had a very low paying job. My very, 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 very first job straight out of college was a job as a prison instructor. I worked as an instructor in the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center, also known as PIC in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I taught life skills and vocational training skills to male and female inmates. PIC was is that transfer point. You leave county, you go to PIC, and then and then after you come out of PIC, you hit up state, do your long term time. So my very first salary was $19,000, and that was like so much money to me. And I remember my supervisor; she was a Jewish woman named Judith, and I wish I could find her because she was just strong and fierce and just amazing. And she liked me, and she was trying to impart mentoring and advice to me, but I was too young to pay attention to it because I thought I knew everything. And I also let racial politics get in the way. Oh shoot, I have to go. That's my real estate agent. We're going to go look at another property, and I'll be back and finish this video. Bye. Sorry, y'all. Okay, I'm back. That was a long break. You don't know it, but I was gone for about 3 or 4 hours, riding around with my agent, and I'll tell you about what's going on in a minute. So I left off with talking about Judith and my time at the Philadelphia Industrial Correctional Center. So Judith was trying to mentor me, and I didn't realize it. And she would give me advice about investing for my retirement. And I remember my very first day on the job, she handed me some information about the company's retirement plan, and she said, "Kenya, I know you won't be here long because you're a very intelligent person. You're gonna go and do other things." She said, "But you should start investing for your retirement." And I was like, "I'm not retirement. Only making $19,000. I can barely make it just paying my student loan and my car note and my apartment." And I think I had like $15 left a week after each paycheck. So I was drinking water and eating macaroni and cheese. I was like that skinny. And "I know you think you can't afford it, but you can't afford it. Put something away." I didn't listen to her. I wish I had. I didn't listen to her because I thought she was insane. Like, there's nothing left. I don't have enough now with my paycheck. Like, I don't have enough to do anything. And so I remember I was working my part-time job. After working as a teacher, I would drive to the Galleria Mall and work at the Cinnabon place as a cashier, and having different people just act really disrespectfully towards me as I tried to give them great customer service. But every day at work, the next day, Judith would say, "Have you started investing in your retirement yet? You know, you're 19 now. By the time you're 39, you could retire if you did that." And I'm like, that makes no sense. She would talk about investing in properties, all of these things. And I just I didn't listen. So I was there 2 years. And several things happened in that 2 year period that I was there. I began to watch her, like really watch her and listen to some of the things that she talked about, the things that occurred on her free time after work. She would travel, and she owned properties and all these other things. Now, I did know other people who owned things, but she was the first one that I had like active daily contact with. Okay. So she said, "Kenya, you still haven't invested in your retirement account and in your retirement account, have you?" And I said, "No, I haven't." She said, this is a primo time for you. I know it seems like, 10, 20, 30 years will never get here, but it will get here. And you don't want to have to work as hard as you're working now then, because you're going to be more tired and you'll have other interests." I still didn't listen. Eventually, I left that job a few months later, moved across the country with my fiance, got married, started graduate school, and just went through the grind that graduate school students go through. I'm going to skip over the whole marriage part because that's a whole different video or even video series. What I am going to jump to is post-marriage when I was divorced. Divorced at this point with a master's degree and no home, a little bit of money in savings, and just starting over from scratch, basically. And that's when I felt the impact of my lack of planning the years previously, the year after my divorce. And I said, oh, this is what Judith was saying to me. She said, you're not going to want to work as hard when you hit your 30s as you are when you're 20, 21, 22. You're not going to want to do it. And it just lit a fire under me. So I began reading those books that I told you about, The Richest Man in Babylon, Victory Over Debt, Rich Man, Poor Man series, and other books. I also read the Millionaire Next Door, and just trying to understand how to incorporate these philosophies into my daily life so that he could kind of transform my thinking about what money is supposed to be. Because when you come from a poor background, money is just a means to survive. You just want to pay a bill to make it to the next moment, or you pay a bill to make it to the next day. It's not something you use as a tool to build wealth so that you can have more options. I had never looked at money that way, as having more options in my life. Options against other people's opinions and other people's idea of how it should live. Options against bad news and financial devastation that would occur. Options against illness, all of those things. And then all of those silly people who said money is not everything, I stopped listening to them. They sounded really stupid to me. Even the ones that had tremendous amounts of wealth was fond of saying, oh, it's just money. I don't let anybody say those things to me anymore after what I've been through and after what I know. It's not just money. And yeah, money is everything because you're not going to have a quality life or even a long life without some type of financial cushion to support you. Now, money should not dictate your self-worth or your value. I mean, of course, how you treat people. In that respect, money is not everything. But right now, I would rather have it than not, especially in this climate. So with that said, I said all of these things to my friend. If you remember from earlier in the first part of the video, she asked me, how do you do these things? It was the philosophy. It was first a change of mind, because if you change how you think about what your life is supposed to look like financially, then you begin to look for opportunities. And then you're able to capitalize on those opportunities and to help build a financial setting for your life, a stable financial setting. So my very first venture into wealth building came in the form of having my own fried chicken and fried fish stand in California. So I'm going to give you a little background about myself, and don't judge me. But I used to hang out for a lot of years in California with a group of Native Americans that I worked with. And one of their favorite places to go hang out and to dance was a place called El Rey, which is in Santa Rosa, California. And they would always invite me to go. And I said, oh no, I don't want to. I'll be the only black person there. I just don't want to go. And they said, oh no, come on, they'll love you, come on. And I went and had a great time. I learned the dances, some bachata, some salsa, other dances that I don't even know the name of, and just had a really good time. Had a couple of weird experiences and a couple of frightening experiences, but overall, I enjoyed myself tremendously. Now, I also know that they always enjoyed having me come because I didn't drink at that point. I didn't start drinking until I turned 40, right? So then in my 30s, I was always drinking water and Coke. That was my thing, water, Coke, or iced tea. And so they always wanted a designated driver. And of course, I would dance just as hard as everybody else. And then we would I would take everybody home and drop them off, and I would be the last person going home at the end of the night at 4 in the morning. But our favorite thing to do after leaving the dance club was to walk across the parking lot to this taco burrito truck. And I don't remember the name of it, but all this truck did was serve beer, tacos, and burritos. That's it. And each taco was like $3 a taco, $4 a burrito, and it was very simple. They cooked the food right there in front of you on the grill. You could smell it. You could smell the smoke coming from the truck as you exited the club. And so that was like the hangout spot after leaving the club. Just sit there and talk and drink, and I have my Coke and tacos, and they would drink their beer and tacos, and we would just have fun, flirt with the men, and chill. It was such a great time. It really was. Um, but one day, on one particular Saturday night, I said, I don't want. I said, oh no, I don't want to keep spending my money on this taco truck. I'm gonna bring my own tacos, and then I did. The next Saturday night I brought my own food, but it wasn't as fun. It's not fun to bring your own cold cut sandwiches or cold tacos and just get some hot tacos from the truck. What I was really saying was, I'm tired of spending my money on this truck. I'm spending money in the club, and then I'm coming out here going to the truck and giving them my money. And I said, they're making a lot of money here making these little tacos. They're just little simple tacos with some onions and green peppers and hot peppers and either pork, chicken, or shrimp, corn or flour tortilla, some salt and pepper, and some other magical stuff to make it taste good. I don't know what that stuff was. And they would give it to you wrapped in like this in a paper plate, literally a paper plate, not a regular paper plate, but regular thick white paper shaped like in a triangle form. And they would put the tacos on that paper and serve it to you. And it just, it was just so amazing. And my mouth would be salivating. I have a Labrador retriever, and every time I feed him, I can't stand it. He salivates, so he slobs all down his neck. That's what I would be doing, getting these tacos, because they would be so good. So I said, they're making a lot of money. I'm going to do that. And my friends would laugh at me. They said, you're going to make tacos? They said, they're not going to let you make tacos. They said, they have a lockdown over here on tacos. You're not going to make any tacos over here. I said, no. I said, but there are other parking lots and there are other clubs and there aren't any other food trucks or even food stands on any other lot. So like across the street from El Rey, there was the Black Club. And then down the street, there was the Country and Western Club for the white people, and some of the Mexicans went down to the Country and Western Club and some of the Mexicans went into the Black Club. And, very few Black people went to the other clubs. It was interesting, but this is how it was. However, the common theme was that the food truck was only on the grounds of the Mexican club. So all the other people from the other clubs would walk or ride down the street to the food truck. I said, oh, there's money here. I need to figure out how to make this money. Now, keep in mind, this was right after I had read those books. So now I saw an opportunity. Before, I would have been a regular pedestrian. Oh, I'm just going to party and have a good time. But I saw the food trucks. So I decided, let me go and get myself a food truck. So after I did the research at the county and found out what the permit process was and insurance and all of these things, I realized I didn't have enough money to do any of those things. But I did have enough money to have a stand. And after much research, I realized I could purchase a used food stand, which is simply like a simple little hut that had outlets for water and electricity. I could purchase that from Craigslist for a couple of $1,000s. I could purchase my permit. I could take my training for food preparation. I could pay for a monthly rental on one of the parking lots. And I could pay for my food. And I started pricing out what my food should cost, how much traffic could I expect, and how many days did I want to be there, how many nights did I want to be there. Because after all, I was also working a full-time job. So I had to decide for those days that I wasn't there, whether I have a full-time employee, and then how would I guard against theft. So all of these things I went into my planning, and it took me 2 additional months before I finally figured out how to do it the right way and did it. I literally did it, and I took my stand. I knocked on the door at El Rey one day before club hours, and I said, "Hey, I want to put a chicken and fried fish stand here." And they looked at me like, "Huh, Marina, Marina, you want to put a chicken and fish stand there?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And they said, "Well, think about it." And then they called me. They called me back 2 weeks later and said, "Okay, we're going to charge you $500 a month." I didn't blink an eye because I thought they were going to charge me 1,000. They said, "I'm going to charge you $500 a month, and that will include your access to water and electricity." And so once they agreed to that, I went down to the club, down to the city in the county, and let them know and did all of that stuff. $4,500 later, I had my stand, I had my process in place, and I had one part-time employee. And it was the best time of my life. Like it really was. So instead of being the designated driver for my friends to go to the club on Saturday and Friday nights, I was the person, the chicken and fish girl. And my stand had wheels in terms of I could hook it up to the back of my Toyota 4Runner, and I had the old school one with the chrome bumpers and the chrome fenders. It was green, the walnut finish on the inside, leather seats, moonroof. I love that Toyota 4Runner. Woo! It was 14 years old by the time I sold it. Anyway, I would hook up my food truck to the back of my 4Runner, and I could drive it to different spots. The black club across the street did not charge me for space, but I couldn't have any water or electricity. And then the club down, the white club would charge me like $100 a month and like water but no electricity. So I had to be really creative with what I was going to prepare and serve. So the Mexican club spot was the main spot that I would keep my truck. So at the end of that first year, about 9 months after I started, not only did I break even, but I made a profit of about $72,000. So I made $72,000 net profit. Plus I got back the original money that I put into the club. Into my food stand. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I prepared and went into the next year and saw like a really good increase in my income the first 3 months of the following year. But, things began to change in my personal life. My mom was ill at the time, and my parents asked me to please come back home. And by this time, home was Atlanta, Georgia, and they needed me there. And, you do what you have to do. So I asked around to find out who wanted to buy a chicken and fish stand, because I sold fried chicken, wings, fried catfish, French fries, and hush puppies, and it did amazingly well. Amazingly well. I could sell 5 wings, 1 piece of catfish, about a cup and a half of fries, and 3 hush puppies for it was $5. And then near the end, I was charging $6 for that. And then on the weekdays during lunchtime, I would throw in a free soft drink, water or juice or Coke for free with the meal. So I made tons of money, and it was kind of a no-brainer, basically. I did have some theft because I kind of ran through part-time people. I knew how much I should have had at the end of the day. I would always leave work and go back to the stand to find out how much was I making, and I would always come up short by like $1,000. So I knew people were just pilfering, but at the time I didn't have cameras, and you don't really know how to manage that process. But I made good money anyway. One of the owners of the club down the road knew someone who was interested in buying my business. And that individual came to meet me. It was a Mexican man. Was he Guatemalan? Yeah, he was. No, he was Guatemalan. Walked up to me with a suitcase full of cash. And right there were two other men beside him. I counted the cash out. He had $50,000 in cash in this briefcase. And I said, this is not enough if you're trying to buy my business. And he said, no. I said, no. And he said, ¿Cuánto cuesta? How much? How much do you want? And I looked at him and I thought about it and I said, 90 mil, 90,000. Now I just came up with that number off the top of my head. Now keep in mind, I was kind of new with this stuff. What I should have said was, let me go home, think about it, talk to my attorney, and I'll come back and we can do business. But I was like, wow, this man's just throwing money at me. But he agreed without a blink of an eye. He just said, yeah, I'll take it. I'll do it. I showed him my books. So I kept my books there with me. He could tell. I showed him how I had filed taxes, what I made, what my gross profit was, my income, my expenses. And he said, you have everything already set up. I will buy it and I will make it bigger. I'm pretty sure that man has probably 10 to 15 to 20,000 chicken stands right now. And I still don't know if I made the right decision to sell it, but I had to leave and get home. And there's no way at the time I knew how to manage something remotely like that. So I sold it, took the money, ran, and said, bye. Thank you very much. Now, that money that I earned after I paid my taxes and got home and got myself settled, that money helped me purchase my first duplex. It was a very small thing. It helped me with my down payment and my closing costs and any repairs that were needed on the property. Then, after a few years, I purchased a triplex and then something else and then another piece of property. And that's how it works. So I couldn't go into too much detail with her because we didn't have a lot of time. But I just explained to her that I took an opportunity, capitalized on that opportunity, and instead of taking that money and buying something expendable that would depreciate in value and not have any value later on, I decided to take that money and invest it in something that I thought could earn more income for me to provide some stability. And then I went through that process over and over and over again. And it wasn't always real estate property. Sometimes it would be a business opportunity. There have been times I've sold items on Amazon. I've sold on eBay. I've made my own products and sold them. If you've ever purchased boots with fur in them or fuzzy hats with animal figures, you probably have purchased something from one of my online businesses. That's it. And she sat and she listened for a moment. And she said, okay, Kenya, I understand. But I told her it hasn't always been easy. There was a moment where I suffered a huge financial loss. And I will tell you all about that later on. But I made some really critical errors in judgment and trusting people and had a tremendous financial loss. But because of my ability to utilize the original financial principles and use my income wisely, I was able to bounce back from that and proceed. So that leads to how I'm able to do this, right? Why am I able to go walk around with a real estate agent and look at properties and look for properties with land and with ponds on it and structures? Like how am I able to do that as a single woman? A little bit of luck, understanding how to recognize opportunity, some persistence, some financial discipline, and deciding to think differently about money. That's it. That's it. And it's not easy. It's not, because literally nobody gives me anything. I have to figure it out. And there has been deals that no, yeah, there have been big deals that I've had to walk away from because I didn't have enough down payment for what was needed, or I couldn't get the right interest rate, or I didn't have a business partner, or things like that. And that comes with experience and time. But what I have learned and what those books I read taught me is that you don't let a no or your inability to capitalize on one opportunity keep you from moving forward with something. If you can't afford this, then what can you get over here and what can that do for you? The other thing is when I look at money and purchases, especially when I'm purchasing property, it has to make money for me. So that the property right now that I am trying to purchase, the 12 acres, which, and after talking to my real estate agent, it may or may not go through because they're playing hardball in the negotiations. But this 12 acres is not just a piece of land I'm going to live on. To me, that would have no value. It has to be able to generate some income for me at this point in my life. Now, maybe later on in life, I'll be able to do that, but right now I can't. I have to be able to rent something out to someone. I have to be able to have a business on the premises, something. It has to be able to be utilized very quickly. And that way it keeps that from being a dead and empty asset that's just taking money from me rather than working for me. It also has to be able to appreciate no matter what occurs. And it's usually a good bet if you have a good body of water, a good source of water on your property, and some good level land and buildable land. That's a good bet. That's going to have going to appreciate nicely for you in future years because other people are going to see value in that land too for their endeavors. So, I told my friend all of these things. This is how I do it. And I'm sure there are more efficient ways. I'm sure there are better ways to do it than I have done it. But this is what I have to do in order to make these purchases work. So I hope this video helps some. I am going to check on my download. I've been gone a few hours, so I'm hoping that the download has occurred so I can upload the video showing you the pictures of the property. And then in that video, I'm going to talk about what my plans are and how I plan on monetizing that land. Bye. Okay, great. Okay, so I just looked over the two videos that I made and I realized that I left off something really important, and that was at the end of the first section of the video, I was talking about racial politics and how that prevented me from moving forward and taking the advice from my supervisor. So when the phone rang and I left, I came back and I didn't pick up that topic again. So I'm adding this last section so I can tell you how no one, okay, should let racial politics interfere with their ability to make money. Had I listened to my white, female, lesbian, feminist, Jewish supervisor, and I say it like that because she was all of those things, and that was a huge turnoff to me as a very self-righteous, young Christian woman. I didn't want to listen to anybody like that. Like who are you? And that really messed me up financially because she showed nothing but kindness and compassion and wisdom and financial savvy. And she saw something really, really brilliant in me. And she was trying to nurture that. And I let all of those things interfere with my ability to take information from her. And I've been looking for her so I could just tell her I'm sorry and that, thank you for trying to talk to me. But I did eventually listen to you later on. Anyway, that's what I wanted to add. And that's also what I told to my friend when she asked me, how do you do this? I do this because I am no respecter of persons when it comes to doing business. I will do business with anybody, any gender, race, ethnicity, age. If I can learn from that person and they have a pretty high ethical compass, and by that I mean they don't believe in ripping people off and they're not greedy, those are the things I look for. I can do business with you and I'll do business with you long term. So, and it pays off. It has paid off for me. It has. So anyway, just wanted to add that last section and now I'm gone. Bye.